Hello and welcome to Formula E X Trackmania. It's round one, it's Tokyo, it's race day, and I'm very excited. We're going to be covering this race today from start to finish, starting with qualifying and then into Division 1, for where we'll hopefully be following Whizzy and Stufts, the wild pairing that we have a little bit of interest in seeing how they do. And speaking of interest, I am joined by our Dutch representative on the broadcast who'll be following our Dutch player on the track. And yeah, Boney, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing how Formula E within Trackmania will unfold. Obviously, it's something new in a way, right? We've had TMFL, and I suppose this is gonna perhaps scratch that same type of itch. I know some of the players that have been quite active in TMFL obviously have been practicing the Formula E tracks. And with the Tokyo track only coming out just an hour ago, I'm very curious to see what that will mean for everyone's performance. But obviously, I do want to see both Stufts and Whizzy just do a phenomenal job today.
Yeah, and as you were saying, a lot of sort of hype and interest around this event. As you said, the map only came out an hour ago. You were playing it just before we came live, and it sounded like you were having a great time. And it looks like an interesting track. You know, a lot of people think of Formula E very similar to Formula One, you know, maybe the big brother of the Formula industry. But it is quite different. I got my first taste of it yesterday when I actually watched the Tokyo race live. And it's an interesting watch, and I think it's going to be interesting in game as well. As you said, the map only came out an hour ago, and we're wondering, you know, who's actually going to be playing the Cup of the Day, who's going to be offlining and maybe just practicing the map, you know, getting as many minutes as they can on the map itself before qualifying. And yeah, we're going to get all of those answers in just a few minutes, because qualifying is going to be starting in 2 minutes basically.
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes to qualifying, I think the best way to explain how everything will be set up in terms of divisions, think up at a day, I think is the best way to put it. We're putting 50 minutes on the clock. Players will be driving their best laps in that time. If you have checked out the room in the Formula E room, the campaign there's also an online room. It simulates how that would work, where you can drive laps and running laps at that as well. To try and set the best time, but at the same time gauge how your energy meter drains and whatnot, because that is one of the main mechanics when it comes to the Formula E game mode, and at the same time what makes it somewhat different from Trackmania. We're still driving the same game, but we're playing by a different set of rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And that might be the name of the game today, that we are going to be doing a lot of learning. Not only us in with the new format and how everything is going to work, but also the drivers themselves. You know, you mentioned those who might be coming from the Formula League and you have experience with that. But this is a taste of something different. And it's not exactly just a copy and paste, even though I know a lot of the people working behind the scenes on the Formula E game mode come directly from the Formula League. So you can be assured that there's some quality there, and I think there's going to be some quality in the pack as well. I mean, we've talked about Whizzy and Stuffs, but they're going to have some strong competition. You know, those people like Petros and Warl and Wosile, you know, the dominant forces in the sort of Formula scene within Trackmania. But is there anyone that you might be looking out for today who might be looking to take one of those top spots?
I mean, some names I've been seeing pop up have been Quick. I think Quick is one of those players that definitely is looking like he is poised and ready to make this his season. Paul is also a name I've popped up here and there, setting up some great times. So very curious about that. But at the same time, right, we've also seen Scrappy coming into it, Granadi looking to do something as well, right? He's been practicing hard, and I'd love to see some players from regular Trackmania, to call it that, I guess, come into this race and try to set their best time. Because I mean, I think pretty much everybody is quite excited about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some questions in chat, and actually, it might be a good time to actually answer a few of those. So, how does the charge work and the tires work? Is it the same as the old TMFL? So, within Formula E, I mean, the name of the game is that it is electric cars, and you have a certain amount of charge to those cars. It works similar to how fuel would work in a normal sort of Formula One car. You have a certain amount, and you need to manage how you consume that to make sure that you use it wisely and make it to the end of the race. In the game itself, you've got a little meter at the bottom of the screen, which all the players will have in game. and they'll get a little reading of how well they're doing in terms of their charge management. Um, Tire wear isn't actually something that comes into play at the moment. However, having said that, there are some weather variables that can come into play, which I've experienced, and they can completely throw you off. The rain in this game mode is insane. It just delays your steering, and you can slide out with just a little bit too much speed. So I think if we get rain, or if we get some, interesting weather conditions today, that could just change up the whole order of the pack.
Definitely, it's something that I also checked in when it comes to the weather conditions and whatnot during the race. Anything could happen in that sense, right? They also have set up, and I'm very curious when it will or not happen for qualifying. The weather doesn't change, right? Because we want to make sure that we're just getting the best running lap. But it could technically rain as well, right? There's no reason for it not to, which could impact the vision, because there is definitely a different skill set needed for driving in rain. However, when driving in rain, it also might help out with your energy consumption, right? There is still that tactic, that resource that you have to manage to make sure that you're able to make it through the entire race. By basically driving to 0.1 over percentage, right? Because that is the optimal usage. It's actually watching some players practice, just jumping into a server, showing this to a friend of mine, and watching a few players actually drive to the finish with 0.1 remaining. It's just ridiculous to see, considering that we're driving 20 odd laps. How do you know so far in advance that you will be able to push it as hard as you can? That really comes into what makes this different, right? It's that endurance part of it all. It's just keeping the race going, but also knowing when you should take it a bit easy and when you can push it.
Yeah, and I guess in a sense, endurance races is something we're quite familiar with in Trackmania. It's done quite often, but this is a little bit different, and not only through the actual game mode, but the track itself. It's pretty much, tech is how you would define it, but I think you just define the track as being sort of claustrophobic, and I think that's a perfect description of it. The walls are very tight. If you do hit them, you're going to get a slowdown. It's going to be difficult to recover. So it's really a mental test more than even just a skill test, because you can be fast at the track, but after 20 laps or so, like you were saying, how do you react to that? How do you stay focused and keep up that pace? So it's going to be interesting to see how everybody manages that. I saw a question about pit stops, so no, there aren't actually any pit stops. You get a charge at the start of the race, and that is going to last you for the whole race. So it's going to be how you manage that. And of course, this is race 1, round 1. There's going to be 3 races on this Tokyo track in total. 1 today, 1 tomorrow, and 1 on the 4th, I believe. But and that is part of a whole larger championship. Could you tell us a little bit about the Formula E championship, Boney?
Yeah, so we have 3 race locations, as they've been dubbed, in total. So today, tomorrow, and the 4th, we are driving the Tokyo track. Each day, players will be able to qualify 15 minutes, try to get the best time in, similar to Cup of the Day, and try to get into the highest division. Depending on the division, they get in. It's Division 1 and 2 that mainly get you into the points, right? If you do hit Division 1, you can get a sweet 100 points at the top, which, tapers off slowly as you go down the rankings. I believe second is 90. Third is 82, and then that goes lower and lower and lower. I may be a bit off on that 82 part. But we also have a couple of points remaining for those in Division 2 and first, second, and third, though it's only 3, 2, and 1 point. So not a lot. You really want to end up in Division 1 to get in there. But at the same time, coming in first, right, nets you 600 euros. But if you get first place over the entire season, that's another €6 on top. So obviously it's going to pay off to play every one of these races. First 3 is going to be Japan. Second 3 are going to be Berlin. And the last 3 are going to be London. Which is actually a couple of months for now, the Berlin one. It's going to be, I think, 2 months. There's quite some time between these races.
Yeah, which is, I think it's going to be interesting to look back at days like today in 2 months' time, as we've got our 2 competitors on the screen, Stufts and Whizzy, right beside each other. I believe we are currently in qualifying. So all of these drivers are going to be trying to get the fastest lap as possible. As you can see the timer at the top left of your screen counting down the time. That means that they have 14 minutes left to qualify. But like you were saying, this is a whole championship and it lasts quite a while. So even though a lot of people are going to be driving these races to get that prize money that goes out to the top three, it's still going to be really important to get some good finishing positions if you want to have a chance of getting money overall at the end of this championship. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how a lot of these players react. And just looking on the left, there are some names on that leaderboard.
Yeah. I mean, Paul, I already mentioned Muda coming in quick. We see come by Kanadi, Petros, Yannick, Wolsa. I mean, these are all names that people will know. Right now, Stufts and Whizzy on 16th and 13th respectively. But you can already see the energy coming into play, right? So this already can give the players a bit of an idea on what their energy consumption will be, the way that they are driving. At the end of every lap, they'll see a percentage that is used. And they can use that, to calculate, okay, how much am I using when I have to drive 22 laps, 23 laps, 24 laps. I'm not quite sure what the number of laps is going to be for this track in particular. For the practice one that was released, that was 23 tracks. So we'll see what comes out of that. And for those curious, what happens when I'm out of energy? Your speed gets limited. You get in a, cruise control type-ish, but your top speed at that point is 200. So you can still drive, but obviously you're somewhat gimped. You can't really move as fast as you would, and especially on a track like Tokyo, as we're already going around it, there's a lot of these straights that will allow you to build up a lot of speed. So, having that happen to you, I would not advise it.
Yeah, and how good does this track look? I have to say, the mod that they've worked on for these tracks is absolutely insane, especially this night team one. It just really gives you a feel of an actual, city night race. Just really, really nice to see. And actually, an interesting thing about Whizzy, he is a proficient karter in real life. Does a lot of IRL karting, and that is one of the reasons why he uses a wheel as his input method. So how well does that transfer to this sort of environment in game? We're gonna have to wait and see. But I mean, looking at the names on the leader on the left, like these TMGL players, Binks, Grenadi, mixed in with those Formula specialists like Petros and Warsaw and Quick, like you were saying. Whizzy just kind of learning the track at this point, trying to just get as fast as he can before probably going for a flying lap and trying to set one of those qualifying times.
Exactly. I mean, at the moment already 7th, so should be pretty good for the time being. It is 50 players for Division 1, so not as broad as we usually have for a Cup of the Day. But even then, 50 players, especially with, how much people, again, have shown their interest in this. I think that'll fill up really fast, and I think we're just going to have a star-studded cast in there as well. Right now, Stufts on 16. Still looking for that, that improvement in time. But one thing about this track that I've noticed while driving through it, while you do have these long straights, when there are turns, they're quite technical. They're quite compact, and you really have to be confident going into these. And somehow figuring out how you can still get through these with the most speed possible. Whizzy is now in particular getting to a section where you set up a small drift to the left only to then drift into the right, so you can get into this tight section and exit out full speed. It's very easy to crash in here, and this is what I meant when I said claustrophobic. There's not a lot of room for error, and you just have to very much be confident in your handling of the car. Whizzy's doing a phenomenal job here now.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who's watched a Formula E race in real life, the cars do look quite interesting, quite geometrical in shape, you might say. Not really as sleek as sort of Formula 1 cars, but these sort of street circuits that they drive on make for very interesting viewing, because you've got bumps, you've got drop downs, you get, the car gets airtime. It's a lot to react to, and it makes initiating some of these drifts and getting some of those lines quite interesting to do, as we see Binks sort of masterfully getting through these corners. So, slight touch there. The former G1 player, and at the moment he sits in second at the top of the leaderboard, with Paul just ahead, the Portuguese player from Four Wheels. But you see I don't think a lot of people will appreciate the skill that is required to do that right-left chicane, but
Yeah.
it is insane what these drivers can do.
Definitely, it's this tight space in terms of responding to it, and where that first section already was tricky. Also here, you're just going faster, faster, faster. Then hey, guess what? Chicane, you know, little in and out. It just really can catch you off guard, and it's very much knowing the track. And again, here as well, players arriving at around 400 something speed, only to slow down in a quite narrow area. And they're looking to pretty much move on to the next turn at 300. Again, there's these, as you say, these bumps as well, somewhat come into play in this track, right? Where, in particular, some of these drifts, you're kind of jumping down, so you don't have that control of the car you would normally to set up. And instead, you just have to react on the fly the moment you hit the tarmac and keep moving. Stufts looking to get a 5th place at the moment. Well, it says 9th below, so I'm not quite sure which of the two I should trust. The scoreboard or the number below him?
I think he trusted the scoreboard, because below him I think is the lap that he's on.
I believe so, yeah.
So he's currently on his 9th lap, but he has set a time, which is currently 6th fastest. Only 0.6 behind Grenadi. I think he'd be a name that... I think he said before coming into this that he was looking to get at least a podium in one of these races. He wants to be in the money at least once.
Right.
And when somebody like Grenadi is just hoping for that, you know that it's going to be quite difficult, you know, to compete in this sort of field. And especially when you go into this little Cam 3 POV, makes the whole thing feel quite real, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah. It just straight in the action. It's just so very low, right? I mean, I'm just imagining driving in the car like that, barriers around you, turns coming at you as fast as they can. Very, very impressive. We just drove past something that is very particular to Formula E as well, in this current game mode that we kind of neglected to mention, which is attack mode. And we haven't really, you know, gotten the chance to drive the track with attack mode. But what is attack mode even?
So attack mode is really interesting. So in real life Formula races, attack mode is something that the drivers can activate. I think it's, I believe, 2 times within a whole race, where they will basically unlock extra speed for their car, which they'll use tactically in certain moments when they want to be overtaking somebody ahead of them, or they think they have some, you know, free space ahead of them to attack. And the way that it works within the game in Trackmania and in this race in particular, we'll see it once we enter the actual race, is that you, on some of these corners, you have an alternative route, which takes you up and around the actual corner, and from there you'll gain the reactor boost ability, which will give you extra grip and will give you extra speed. So the drivers all have 2 times where they can hit that attack mode. It'll be interesting to see how they use it, and whether it will be playing a big factor in the outcome of the race as a whole.
Yeah, because I mean, it's definitely, if navigated and used properly, it can do a lot for your race. But all that extra speed does mean that these turns all of a sudden take a different approach, and I myself do not expect to be able to handle those on my first time around, just first time hitting the attack mode part. But I think these players will most likely get a grip of it a lot faster than I can, and most likely use that to their advantage. And it's going to be a bit of tactical use with that as well. It could also happen, perhaps, that attack mode is used and weather comes into play. Who knows, right? And all of a sudden, well, all these turns that you're so used to driving in a certain way on dry tarmac, now you're going to have to do on wet. It's going to be very... I don't know, I'm very curious to see how this will all pan out in the race. Again, these players haven't exactly had like weeks in advance to prepare for this, at most an hour. And I mean, already showing some great times. I mean, Binks' time of 50.777 sounds like a lot of luck on his side. But Stufts also a phenomenal job right now, just 0.2 behind. Whizzy still looking for his better time, but even then, I mean, 0.8 behind, 12th place. Sounds like Division 1 still is in the cards.
Yeah, absolutely. Whizzy seems like he has been struggling a little bit more than Stufts. Stufts has a comfortable sort of 3rd spot at the moment. and it's quite interesting because there was a test race that was conducted a few days ago, where I think there was about 40 players who took part, and Whizzy did end up taking third spot in that race, qualified in fifth position. Um, and I believe Stufts was in the like around 15th to 20th position. So definitely sort of in that upper bracket of players. So we'll expect them to be in Division One. We know the quality that Stufts and Whizzy have, and the quality of this field is something we probably haven't seen since maybe the last World Cup, I might say.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, there's all of these names all together, and it's really interesting, like you were saying, to have those. Maybe you'd call them specialists, kind of like Petros and Quick and all of these guys. But as we see Pusida Paco, the Hungarian prodigy, go into third position, they can contend, with these Formula specialists, and it's actually really, really interesting to see how everybody takes these corners. You saw Pusida Paco drift that one corner where his opponent seemed to enjoy just braking and turning and taking that radius as he wanted to.
Yeah.
So everybody kind of learning, I guess, what their preferred lines are going to be, because you're going to be doing them, 20 times plus over and over. So they better be good.
Definitely, yeah. There's definitely something valid as well to, finding those ways of doing it, where, again, this energy system coming into play, making sure that you want to actually conserve when necessary and go full out when there is room for it. Going for the release means not being on the throttle, means not using energy. So there's always a good reason to try to take these turns without the necessity of drifting the same way you would in Trackmania, where you're just basically going all out all the time, except if a turn really doesn't allow you to do anything other than that. It's definitely a matter of finding that balance, finding that just that line that you can walk across, and that does require you knowing how to take turns in multiple ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And this track is relentless. I said that we are used to seeing endurance events in Trackmania, but rarely are the tracks as fast paced and have turns that just come at you this quickly. You really have to have really good reactions and know how to manage these different sections. We've got high speed into big braking zones, like we just saw Whizzy masterfully navigate there. So it really is a test of these players' skill. Absolutely max those last two drifts. And I believe across the finish line he is up into 11th. Stufts is currently sitting in 5th, as we have just over a minute left in this qualifying session.
Yeah, so it does look like this is going to be the last rounds for these players to try and get a better time if possible. Stufts, for now, is on a improvement. We'll see if he's able to hold on to that. 0.2 of a second can already do a lot. I mean, that is pretty much the gap between him and Binks. So see if he's able to get more out of it. Slows down a little bit in splits. I mean, because of those long straights, right, it's very important to exit out with as much speed as possible, just because there is so much space available to you. Oh, yeah, unfortunately he does hit the wall there. I mean, he was definitely pushing for it to try and get his time a bit better. I think 5th place is a fine time to, fine place to end on for qualifiers. And I think he'll use the rest of the time to just perhaps look for some different turns. And I don't think Whizzy has enough time for another run, considering he's just about at the start of it all.
Yeah, I think this is just getting a little bit of extra practice in, like you were saying.
Yeah.
This is going to be an interesting race. I'm really looking forward to it. We haven't seen something like this in Trackmania before, so maybe it's an opportunity for some players to rise to the top that we might not have seen up there before. But having said that, we're very used to seeing a lot of these names at the top of Trackmania, and some not as much as others, but really looking forward to seeing how we get on and how our two boys get on as well.
Definitely. I do like these camera shots for for the map, just getting into the players winning and whatnot, gives us a nice overview of qualifiers. Time Spings fastest 50.777 does stay in, but I mean, stuff's right there, 51.0. We got Whizzy with a 51.1. So fine times, I think, to get ready for our first race, our first ever race of Formula EX Trackmania.
Yeah, the first of 9 in total, and yeah, as you said, I just love this whole thematic. The mod and everything, the different scenes. All you're missing is proximity chat.
Oh yeah.
For everybody to start applauding at the end of the race, even though some might be a little bit saltier than others. But
Yeah.
that being said, we're all in good spirits because we've got competitive Trackmania to watch, and we've got it for probably the next 40 minutes at least, I would say, which is going to be a long time for these drivers to stay focused and stay in their race, and we're going to see a lot of overtaking. All these drivers are going to be starting from the pit lane. We do have a bit of a warm-up before we actually do start the race. The server that we were watching there was one of many, even though a lot of the big names were in that one. There were other players in other servers who had an opportunity to qualify into Division 1. So we might discover who has made it into that top 50 very soon. But I would imagine a lot of the names that we saw in that main server would be in Division 1.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to not see that be the case unless somehow everyone came out of the woodworks to play and somehow figured out a way to knock out some of these names out of Division 1. It'll be very interesting to see who makes the cut and who doesn't, right? Because again, with multiple servers going, we only got one point of view and one set of times. But what is the cutoff point, right? Is it a 51.1? Is it a 51.2.3? How much space was there? Because I mean, for Stufts, it does seem like sub 51 seems to be the time that you want to aim for. So hopefully Whizzy does make it in with his 51.1 there.
Yeah, I'd very much expect him to.
Yeah.
As we were saying, a lot of the big names who were in that server, almost a Division 1 server, you might call it. In qualifying. But there's the talent in Trackmania is spread across a wide community. So a lot of players who could surprise us, who might have been practicing, maybe even offline. That's something that we see quite often in Trackmania. Maybe some people have targeted this whole championship as a goal for them and kind of want to hide their pace. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Super Karloof, by the way, a little mention for him. He was it world champion in 2008 or 2009?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure on the year.
So the longevity here, playing in Formula E X Trackmania, the first of its kind, really, really impressive to see.
I do love this overhead. Like, I don't know, I just love the way the track looks in general, and at the same time, all the the buildings and whatnot, right? It's all to simulate the idea of being in Tokyo, right? But I think they are very much on the money with I don't know, when I think like Tokyo Formula racing, this is somewhat what gets into my mind, right? This does fit that image.
Now, who do you think between Whizzy and Stufts, who's going to finish higher? Obviously, Stufts is qualified ahead of Whizzy, so he's going to be starting in front of him on the grid.
Sure.
But in that test race that I mentioned earlier, Whizzy started in 5th, finished in 3rd, so managed to do a few overtakes and had a good race. So who do you think between these two is going to finish highest?
Yeah, because I mean, pace-wise, it's not even that big of a difference, right, between the two. But I think I will be very boring in my answer and just say Stufts because he's Dutch. To be a bit more in depth, I guess a lot of it plays around with the idea of not just being the fastest. Just being the fastest is not gonna cut it if you cannot deal with the mechanics within Formula E. So it's I don't know. I'd still say Stufts just from a personal point of view, but at the same time, I'm very curious to see how Whizzy handles the mechanics of it all. And apparently, from hearing what you say during his previous race, was able to get into 3rd place means he does manage his mechanics quite well, because it's not easy to to do that. Even in a practice race, I can imagine quite some players that will be competing are in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're currently in the practice hub, so all of these players discovering that they have successfully qualified into Division 1 and will shortly be entering the race. Obviously, this is not the current track that they're going to be playing today. This is just something for them to practice and warm up on before we actually attack the race itself. And you can see some of those players really happy to be in Division 1. There's a lot of interesting names there that we might not have seen in our server. You know, Raz, Gevon. Who else is in there? Mimo Jr.
Mimo Jr., Kurisu. Don't see too. I mean, Scrappy in there. Though Scrappy has been playing Team F in the past as well, so not surprising that he is playing here. Yeah, nice lineup.
Absolutely, it's going to make for a very interesting first race. And what's so nice about this, it's not going to be one round, 50 seconds and it's over. This is the next half an hour at least of driving. So strap in, get yourself a cup of tea, get yourself some snacks, enjoy the POV. We'll be following the race all together. We've got a minute of warm up before it's lights out. And maybe predict in chat yourself. Who do you think is going to finish ahead of the others? Is it Whizzy? Is it Stufts?
Yeah. Because who are you siding with in this Whizzy versus Stufts debate, if you will?
Okay, I think if Whizzy qualified ahead of Stufts, I would have went with Whizzy.
Right.
But right now, I'm just going to put 5,000 channel points on both. And
I cannot put points in that because I'm Dutch.
Alright, never mind. I put 10k on Whizzy and we're going all in.
Damn, there you go. Well, let's see what what that'll pan out to. Everybody just getting more. It's really cool to see everybody just going hard here, and very curious to see how big the difference will occur, right? Because again, it's not just pace; it's also about resource management. I think that is not something to forget, and we'll see how well the players are able to use that to their advantage.
Absolutely. It's Formula E X Track Mania. It's round 1. It's Tokyo. And it is lights out and away we go with Binks and Grenadi in first and second. 10 seconds left. Stufts is starting in 6th. We've got, I believe, that is Snow to his right, the Bureau Sud French player. Ahead of them, Pustito Paco. And then I believe it's Paul, Grenadi, and Binks. And here we go. 25 laps for today's race. Do your best. That's the message from Team Radio. That's the message from us, two Stufts and Whizzy. And we are off.
Yeah, there we go. We see Aurus in between the mix as well. Snow also coming into play. And definitely a good start for Stufts. I mean, already using that advantage, right, to get in the start to make sure you get ahead. Unfortunate drift there from Stufts. I mean, it's a very technical sector there to make sure you set up 2 drifts in a row. It's not easy at all. So for now, Whizzy will be able to get a bit forward of Stufts. So any Whizzy enthusiasts for now winning, but we Stufts enjoyers will come back. But there goes the power. Whizzy, great straights there just to get ahead of a lot of players.
Absolutely. The consistency here is going to be extremely important. You can be fast, but if you crash on a consistent basis, then you are going to find yourself at the back. So we get a fastest lap coming out from Scrappy at the very beginning. First person to cross the line. So he's taken over the lead of the race from Binks and Grenadi. But Whizzy has made good progress. He's already up to the 10th position. And ahead of him he has, I believe, is that Pole and Elcon in his sights, who are having a nice little 1v1 battle ahead of him.
Yeah, so that may actually help them out, right? It depends on how much Elcon or Pole will allow them to focus on one another. But at the time, Whizzy, right there, great drift, using that speed to get past Pole. Stufts may also be able to take advantage of that. Ooh, does stay quite close to Pole, but not quite enough to make use of it. Actually, Super Karloof come into the fold as well. Everybody at the front still somewhat close to one another. And I do think that, any and all mistakes will be brutally punished, honestly, with the pace that everybody is showing off already. This does go to show that even with an hour of play, it works. And we see Granati actually right there
Attack
using
mode.
the attack mode.
Yeah, and that means that he went up onto that alternate route. He gets a reactor boost. Look at the speed that it gives him. He goes straight from 10th position up to first. Now, that might seem overpowered, but remember that all of these drivers have this available to them. I believe it lasts for about 1 minute and 20 seconds. And it is going to make everything difficult for them. Who is that with it now?
Bimmy.
Bimmy takes it up and is going to pass in front of Stufts. You saw Razi use it as well. Maybe some of these drivers thinking, I'm going to make positions up early on in the race and then I'll be able to focus on just doing my consistent lines. But for the moment, Stufts, as he enters lap 4, is in 10th position. Top 10 is very nice on his part. Whizzy is close behind in 12th. And for the moment, it's a really tight pack. I saw somebody take the attack mode just behind Stufts. We might see them overtake him in just a few seconds, although it can be difficult to navigate these tight corners when you have that extra speed. But there he goes, it's Elcon, and he flies ahead of the rest of the competition.
Yeah, just making the the rankings, I suppose, a little less static as well, right? Because of players being able to use this attack mode, you can see a lot of changes occurring in the rankings so far. Ooh, Bimmy with a big crash there, who was making use of the attack mode, but perhaps a bit too fast. Who knows? Because it's very much a double-edged sword. On a track like this, you can make a lot of use of it on all these long straights, but the moment you hit these turns, well, you better make sure you know how to control it, because otherwise you're going to have a very bad time. I mean, Pika at the moment doing a phenomenal up, and Stufts does decide to go for attack mode. This is his time to shine. He's feeling confident enough for the track to use attack mode and shoot up the rankings a little bit. Currently in 15th, shooting up to 14th now. Hey, you can just see how much speed is being gained here. Oh, fortunate turn there, though.
Yeah,
and if you... maybe tactical. Let's say it's tactical.
It might be, with that extra speed, you might want to slow down a little bit more, and a slight clip can do that for you instead of just braking. But if you want to know how effective this attack mode is when you know how to use it, the average pace in qualifying was it 55 seconds or 50 something? Around 55 seconds. Granati has the fastest lap at 46 at the moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's quite effective. It works, basically, is what we're trying to get at. And if anybody here is watching Trackmania for the first time and might not understand why there aren't sparks flying every time a car enters another car, it's because collisions are not on in Trackmania. So all of these drivers possibly and might not even choose to see their opponents. I might just be driving their own race lap after lap and trying to make it through as best they can. Stufts had a little bit of a clip there, getting used to this attack mode, as we said, first time around, but he seems to be doing pretty well. He's up in 5th now, as he overtakes Super Carlo to enter 4th even.
Yeah, it's very much helped out, this attack mode for him. Obviously, some turns being a bit more difficult due to the extra speed. See attack mode just running out. But has made good use of it right now, as we can already see Granati actually has no attack modes remaining. At the side of each of the names, you can see how many attack modes they have, determined by the amount of bars. Some already, have still attack mode going, such as Elcon, Pole, Scrappy as well, right? All those timers. But Granati has none remaining for the race, and we're only on lap 7. So while he has built up quite a nice lead, 2.6 seconds over Elcon, it may be a case of going too fast at the start of the race, and this is where endurance very much comes in. You want to play the long game and make use of that. And Stufts for now, 69% energy-wise, does say overused, but this is something you can definitely conserve upon later. For now, I think it is wise to use as much energy as possible to try and solidify some of these positions. Quick, not too far off either, so maybe possible to get a 5th place right there. Though Walsall maybe in hot pursuit, as he is in attack mode as well, and then 7th.
Yeah, there like you're saying, exactly, there he goes. Just as you were saying, good timing Walsall. But yeah, this sort of race management is going to be super important. Stuff's currently a bit in overuse, but like you said, maybe anticipating some changes in conditions. Maybe some rain might be on the way, and that might be a good idea to spend your speed early on in the race, so afterwards you can manage it a little bit better. But for the moment, yeah, Stuff's definitely having a good race. We saw him have a few crashes, but he recovered well from them. I think that's going to be a really important sort of way of staying up in the leaderboard. I have actually lost sight of Whizzy. I don't
Yeah,
believe he's in the top 20 anymore, but rest assured it might be because he hasn't used any of his attack modes.
21st.
He's in
He is.
21st. Yeah, and he's still got 65% left. Oh, as he's currently in attack mode, so let's see him shoot up the leaderboard once again.
There you
There
go.
goes Gandir. Next one, who's up next? It's Intax, there's Razi, there's Petros. It's Petros himself actually is in attack mode, but you can see how effective it is. The speed that you gain from that reactor. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time as well, right? Coming out of these long straights and then having to control it, that is so difficult. But some of these players are able to do it. I mean, Whizzy right there doing a phenomenal job out of it as well. Still has a last second remaining, so from this point on, he has one more attack mode left in the tank to make use of to climb up the ranks a bit more. It did help out a lot, coming in from, well, we saw him come in from 21st into 17th. So not as clean of a race as we have seen on Stuff's side. But it does look like Stuffs actually has dropped down a little bit in the rankings, currently in 12th place. So maybe looking to get back into it. Still, though, has that attack mode remaining. Will help out a ton to get back up in the rankings. Again, Top Tree does not have attack mode anymore. That could mean a lot in like lap 18, 19.
Yeah, and when you look a little bit down the leaderboard, you look at the names who still have attack mode left. And Evon is sort of jumping out at me as one of the drivers who still has both attack modes left. Currently in 20th, and that can very easily change if he uses both of those in a row. You could see him enter the top 10, even top 5 with a good use of those attack modes. But yeah, maybe some of those drivers ahead of Stufts, he's dropped down to 15th now. Attack mode got him up into that top 5, but it's been difficult ever since then, and is actually being caught up by Whizzy. Now again, he has one attack mode left and has been doing pretty well otherwise, so maybe as we enter into sort of the second half of this race, we'll see that change. Because remember, we're on lap 11 at the moment out of 25, so there's still a long way to go in this race before anything is set in stone.
Yeah, it's obviously, to a certain extent, these times will start to add up, but especially in Division 1, I'd be very hard-pressed to see many players be down by a full lap. I mean, even with Whizzy being in 21st behind by about 20-odd seconds, that's still relatively good. I mean, at the top, you see Granati has used quite a lot of energy, actually. 48% already used, barely halfway through. So, could be enough, right? Could be the way forward. But at the same time, it is a bit of a concern, right? He's going to have to conserve energy at some point in the race if he doesn't want to end up basically scooting past in his, I don't know, like little scooter, right? Which is limited to like 50 kilometers an hour, or not even 30 kilometers an hour, right? You're allowed to drive without a helmet or something, I don't know.
And his Vespa.
Just over the line.
As we see Stuff's going for his second attack mode, so he wants to bring them out early. He wants to get back up the field. And I think it might be a good idea to use both of them back to back. You said it takes a while to get used to having the reactor. Yeah. So maybe just having it consistently for a good 3 minutes is probably a better idea than using them at two opposite ends of the race. So Stuffs is going to try and make good use of this. You can see the gaps are starting to open up between each driver a little bit more. Petros is ahead of Stufts, and Super Karloof, I think, took the attack mode same time as Stufts, and he's also climbed the leaderboard into the top 10.
Yeah, you can see the timers, pretty much within a second of one another. So this will definitely help out a ton. Again, looking at top 10, only Scrappy and Wolfstyle, the ones still having attack mode. Scrappy just hitting his, so he'll be enjoying that for the next minute and a half. But it does mean that everybody, at the top, Granati, Muda, Bings, Elkon, Quick, Wolfstyle, Pole, they're all being chased down by our attack mode users. You can see on these straights, it does a lot. Oh, unfortunately, this little zigzag not really going away of Stuffs. I mean, because it is reactor, you do accelerate quite fast, but that is definitely a waste of what could have been, as we see Scrappy and Super Kaloof already on 6th and 7th. That could have been stuff that should have been stuffed, but unfortunately, that was definitely one of those sectors where you do not want to crash with attack mode.
Absolutely, he was doing really well stuff. He was following those who had attack mode ahead of him. Unfortunately, it all came tumbling down with that one crash. As pretty much came to a standstill, had to reverse, do a U-turn and get back into the race. Whizzy, however, sitting in 20th, still has one of those attack modes left, and again, I have to mention him, but Evon in 19 still has both attack modes left.
Does he know he can use them? Right, he is aware.
I
Yeah,
hope he does. He's just seeing these guys flying past him. He's wondering like, what's happening? They're cheating.
Yeah. Is there a reactor somewhere? What is going on? Where's the cut? Because I have seen players in the training servers asking like, "Hey, what's the button for this reactor boost you all are doing?" Right? Some players are not aware of that. I'd be hard pressed to think Evon doesn't know about it, but at the same time, Black 15 still hasn't used either one of them. He's gonna have to at some point if he wants to go up into the rankings. Whizzy, unfortunately, being overtaken by Evon there. But I'm very curious to see when he decides to go for it, if he's still trying to, get somewhat acclimated to it all. But Whizzy does decide to pull the trigger, does decide to take the attack mode, and will be trying to climb up the ranks a bit more. He's definitely looking forward at the moment in 24th place. We'll see how much he's going to be able to pull out of this. It's going to be these straights where he's going to have to do it.
There's a third one, and you have to feel that they're all just going to come tumbling down. Whizzy, one of the sort of top players in the leaderboard at the moment who still has an attack mode left. Obviously, Evon a bit of a fringe case. But Whizzy making good use of it. Oof. Very good save. That could have been a very bad position for Whizzy to be in. But there goes another one, second one, the third one. And he's really climbing the leaderboard now. He is up into 18th at the moment. And might be hoping for a bit of a, top 15, something like that towards the end of this race.
Yeah. It's definitely once all the attack modes have come and gone, that's where, it's going to be a lot more about raw pace, and especially as well with the energy levels getting lower and lower and lower, around the 30% mark at this point. It's definitely going to add up in the long run of things. 8 laps will be remaining for these players, and it's definitely no longer that edge that you can use in that attack mode. Whether you waited with it for a little bit or tried to use it now, it's going to be a question of whether or not that was the right call. Who knows? Maybe for that first race you do want to use 2 in a row, but after having played it for a little bit, okay, I can save it. I can use it towards the later parts of it because of certain factors. We do see actually Whizzy overtaking Stufts right now as well, right? So teammates not side by side per se, but definitely within eye shot, probably not ear shot.
That's where we need the proximity chat.
Yeah,
but, it feels like they've done it on purpose. Stufts was like, Whizzy's a bit far behind. I'll have a bit of a crash. We'll end up beside each other and we'll have a bit of a drag race to the end. But Evon in attack mode, look at him go. I think this is still just his first one.
Yeah.
So he's definitely having a good race. Definitely scoped to look up the leaderboard as he's passed Whizzy, past Pika, and I think the only person ahead of him who still has an attack mode left is Wosile in 10th position. So Evon absolutely flying up the leaderboard. The Polish player having a great time. Just as he's gone past Pika, who sits ahead of Whizzy. Whizzy seems to have gotten the hang of this track. I know that might seem funny to say, after lap 19, but I saw him use that last attack mode and he was really efficient with it. Apart from that one little scare that he had, he's looking really good, and I hope this isn't too painful on his wrists, because it must be quite intense to do all these corners back to back for 25 laps.
Oh yeah, and definitely with these small adjustments that are happening for quite a few of these, quite a lot of these turns actually. Just it's a lot of movement on his end compared to somebody who may be playing on keyboard or on controller. But I suppose that also comes with the X control that he is looking for, that he wants out of driving with wheel. And so far, honestly, 16s and 17 for Whizzy and Stufts, I think that's a phenomenal start already. I mean, Stufts fortunately does find himself touching the wall here and there, but this is a tight track, right? There is not a lot of space against us, just trying to go for it, hits the wall there again, and you do need to push it just because of the amount of speed you can gain if you if you do make it past that wall, right? If you do manage to get it pixel perfect and get in, because otherwise in the long run you're just gonna have to lose out. The Whizzy, for now, doing a phenomenal job in 15th place. Still, though, Evon in front of him with the attack mode. When is he going to use the second one? And when is Wolsall going to use his? We're on lap 21.
Absolutely. Is he going to make a late surge for that top spot? Because he's one of those Formula specialists that we talk about, one of the big names when it comes to Formula racing and Trackmania. Sitting ahead of him and he's got players right ahead of him. 7th, 6th, and 5th are just there. Yeah. Actually, he just enters 6th position, and with an attack mode left, like you were saying, 4 laps to go. When is he going to pull the trigger? And do the drivers ahead of him know that he is going to come flying past at some point? I think, like we said at the top of the show, today is a lot about learning. How do we want to manage these races? How does everything flesh out? How does it work in practice? And I think it's definitely a good little bit of a learning experience for our two wild drivers.
Definitely. I'm looking at the energy meters we see at the left side as well.
Ooh.
And Gennady and Supercar Loop around the 5% mark. They are way over their energy meter. And I mean, at this point, they're on lap 22 out of 25. There is not that much remaining left in the tank. They will slow down at some point, and I do believe that is going to cost them their race. Avon right now with attack mode to using his last one finally. Wolsall as well deciding to pull the trigger. I think this is going to pay off, and I wouldn't be surprised if because of this, Wolsall may end up in top 3, if not winning the race outright.
1%. What is Gennady going to do? Does he know that after a few corners his engine is just going to cut out? Because it's not looking good right now. 1%. Let's just stay on board with Gennady because he's tumbling down. Only 2 laps to go. I hope he does, but it doesn't look like he does. You can see him, he has to release, he has to not brake, and those players that he's previously lapped a lot faster than him now. Yeah. And there goes another one. And does Alcon and all the other players know this? There's Jaka, he's down in 34th, but he's way faster than Gennady. He has 0% left. Alcon has 0% left. Our top 2 are getting past it. And there's Wolsall with that attack mode. Brilliantly played by Wolsall.
Yeah, and I mean, right now you can see as well, I mean, he is on 7%, but with 2 laps to go, there is definitely that room for him to make use of it. He just needs to take it a bit easy on this 1 lap, and then he can go all out on lap 25. But yeah, this is very much Wolsall showing off his experience that he has built up in TMFL and making great use of it. This will obviously help out all the other players lower in the rankings as well, who have been watching their energy to try to get more into the race, right? Get a better positioning, despite it seeming like there is no way to get back into it. Oh, but a great fight happening as well between Wolsall and Scrappy. I mean, both players still having relatively enough energy, but Scrappy with just a bit more is able to push it on these turns just a bit harder, and that could mean the difference. 3.4 seconds though. I think Scrappy made a mistake somewhere along the way. I didn't quite catch it, but it's going to be a close finish.
Yeah, as Wolsall comes across the line, he's into the last lap. He's got 600 euros in his sights, and in 3rd position you have Evon. So those 2 players that we highlighted who saved their attack modes. So we just saw Whizzy hop into the top 10, passing out Gennady. Very well managed race for him. 2% left, and all of these lapped players will not get to finish their extra laps. It's once the first player comes across the line, next player to come across the line is finished their race as well. And Whizzy actually up to 9th. That is a really nice turn up for the books from the British players. Wolsall still in first, but he's down to 0 as well. Is Scrappy going to be able to pass him out at the very end?
Quite low, yeah.
He has him in his sights.
Oh, that's James.
He's passed him. He's passed him.
Is he past him?
He is across the finish line.
Is this going to be enough? Just no power at all.
Oh my God.
Does it. He actually does it. Scrappy wins wins Formula. I don't know how he does. I mean, Scrappy, to be fair, when it comes to learning tracks fast, he's always shown that he is quite adept at it, but then also to be able to manage his energy in the way that he has, that he pretty much was out right before the finish. Yeah, that is simply impressive. Stufts unfortunately already out of energy before the final few turns here, so looks like 16th place is going to be where he ends up. But Whizzy as well with a great performance in 9th place, and it's good to see that everybody has used their energy, right? The last thing that you want is to end the race and have like 5% left, because that simply means there was more to be done, there was more to be taken advantage of. I mean, Elcon, who was in top 3 all the way down into 27th, and yeah, just goes to show you don't want to go out too hard at the start, because that may end up biting you in the butt.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, like you said, Alcon coming home in 27th when for a long time was at the top of the leaderboard. It's just goes to show how managing that energy is ever so important. And yeah, Scrappy overtaking Wosile with those basically 2 extra corners of energy. Really, really impressive from him. And a big shout out to Whizzy, who got a nice top 9 finish, which I think he can be very much satisfied with, considering the caliber of names ahead of him. And that was the first race of the Formula EX Trackmania Championship. And those are some important points on the board for our 2 wild players, who will try to kick on from here and try and maybe get themselves into the money next time around.
Definitely. But yeah, with that, first race done. First race dusted. And I mean, the second race isn't even 24 hours from now. I mean, it's even less. It's what, 18 hours from now? If my count is correct, maybe even 17 at this point. It is almost 9, I guess, suppose so. Oh, but you know what? Reduce another hour of that, because daylight saving time is coming up as well.
Oh, you're a smart man. You're a smart man, Boney.
Yeah.
There we have our top 10 in the end. A really good win for Scrappy, who passed out Wosile in the end. A good performance from both of our wild players. Whizzy, I think, having a nice little end to his race, nice second half. Stufts had some incidents which unfortunately cost him that top 15, but still a good learning experience for him. And yeah, they're going to definitely kick on from here and hopefully put some points on the boards and yeah, get some money for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I obviously tomorrow another race, another opportunity. This time a bit more time to get used to the track. So I wouldn't be surprised if for the second race the players are going to be making less mistakes, but at the same time, we had quite a lot of players ending up at 0% before they were close to the finish. So some energy management will have to be put into practicing the track as well to make sure that that is all on point. But yeah, for now, I think everybody competing has done a phenomenal job. And again, congratulations to Scrappy for winning it all.
Well, that was yeah, it was great fun. I really enjoyed that. It's a nice little format, isn't it? It's a nice length as well. Something
Definitely.
different for us to enjoy. Us Trackmania esports and competitive Trackmania enjoyers. Nice to see something a little bit different, and I'm looking forward to these next 8 races. You know, we've got a lot more of it to come. We've got 2 more new tracks, so yeah, going to be really interesting. Let me actually see if I can get Whizzy in for an interview so we can see how he got on.
Definitely. See how that'll go. I'm sure he's there. I'm sure he's lurking. I'm sure he's. I mean, if I were him, I think I'd be pretty happy with his result as well. He was struggling a little bit towards the early to middle half of the race, eventually dropping down to out of that top 20, but to eventually end up in 9th place, I think is a great recovery and a great way of solidifying the first race despite a bad start, still getting a good result out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, in the end, Whizzy won. I also won our little prediction game. So I'm happy on both cases. That's what I'm going to take away from today's race.
Oh, there you go. Hey, I'm looking forward to Stufts picking it up next race. And this time, sure it's Whizzy, but gonna be Stufts next time. You best believe it. All right, he's gonna get all the kinks worked out, and he's gonna be able to take it over Whizzy and maybe even getting that first place, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we saw some of those drivers like Grenadi who had a great start to the race, but just didn't manage their energy as they should have. And for them as well, definitely show that they have the pace to be in those top spots, but they're going to need that, sort of, race management aspect of it as well, if they want to be actually getting some money from these competitions.
Definitely, yeah. I do remember during TMFL times, right? Spam. He's somebody who does obviously he enjoys playing right the game and whatnot, but he doesn't really know the management of things, and he relied on his chat to do it for him. And obviously, for him it's more of a fun thing, right? He's not in it to necessarily get top times and whatnot. But yeah, it just goes to show that despite like players such as him who are great at the game, to then introduce this energy management, right? To give you a couple of charges of attack mode, and how that can change the dynamics of how you approach a race, alongside the fact that you're playing 25 laps. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And I do believe we do have Whizzy with us. Are we able to hear Whizzy?
Hello.
I can hear Whizzy. Can the stream hear Whizzy? Good stuff. Whizzy, P9,
Hello.
race number 1, round 1. It's finished. How was that?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, just looking at the plan view of the track, I knew it was going to be quite difficult, to be honest. The track wasn't it's not really an excuse, but it sort of is. But it wasn't really suited my style. There's a lot of new slides, especially in Sector 2. Well, start of Sector 2, I guess you could say. But either way, I just lacked a bit of pace. So in terms of qualifying, it was a bit tricky. But I think we made the most of it. With this first race, it was going to be quite challenging for everyone. We saw a lot of different strategies coming out, with from what appeared to me to be, Grenadier and a lot of others just full pushing and hoping that the kind of depleted battery would carry them. We can confirm that doesn't really work. So we can roll that out, but no, it was interesting, and obviously there's things that we could improve. I could improve. I didn't make full use of the attack modes, to be honest. A few errors here and there, and I couldn't really get to grips because obviously, the first race of each round you can't practice the wet, you can't practice attack mode. You can't practice those things, so it's always going to be an on-the-fly job. But yeah, it's what it is, and ninth is it's a good result for me personally, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, and speaking of those attack modes, they really impacted the race. And what was interesting from our point of view, seeing the whole field, is that everybody used them quite differently. Like you said, players like Grenadier went out flying at the start, used both attack modes, got an early lead, but in the end actually ended up paying for it. And there were some players like Wosile, who ended up finishing second, who used his very last one on the last few laps, and Evon actually used his 2 on like the last 5 laps. Did you have any plan coming into it for the attack modes, or was it just I'll use one now, and actually I feel comfortable with the track and I'll use the second one now?
Yeah, you've kind of hit the nail on the head, to be honest. I mean, from the practice race that we did, or I did a week ago, I think it was, I tried to do one in the dry, one in the wet, but yeah, there was no particular structure for me, especially there was no warning of rain. It was seeming to be a full dry race, which it turned out to be, so yeah, I didn't really have much strategy, but maybe that's something to think about. It's maybe attack mode is playing a bit more than we think, but yeah, for this race I didn't really have much strategy. It was just kind of like, when do I have the energy to bank on a full push lap, and one not to. So yeah, it was kind of just when I felt like it, to be honest. But yeah, it will be something we look into.
Yeah, very good. And I guess last question, because you have been focusing for about the last hour on that one track, so I can appreciate it's quite tiring. But what do you think overall of this sort of new game mode in this championship? You've had a bit more exposure to it than most would have, and competing in it. Did you enjoy it, and how do you see it playing out for the rest of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something fresh, something new. Within reason. I unfortunately didn't play the subsequent Trackmania Formula League, just for various reasons. So it was the first time playing this sort of endurance format with, with battery usage and etc. So, but no, I really enjoy it. It adds variety. It adds strategy, which in your kind of bog standard cup mode or knockouts you don't really get, to be honest. It's always just full push, and to be honest, that's not particular. I'm not the best. I'm never really the fastest. So yeah, this suits me a bit more, and yeah, I enjoy the strategy, and to be honest, I'm looking forward to a race in the wet, or at least partially in the wet, because yeah, I think that will really shake up the grid a lot more. I mean, we already saw it with the power, with the battery usage. I kind of knew the first race was going to be a kind of a coin toss, with what people do and how they treat the battery. But yeah, it's a learning curve for everyone. So, but yeah, I really enjoy it. To be honest, it's great fun. So.
Awesome. Well, we had great fun watching you as well. It was a very fun race from a spectator point of view. Nice to see you get a top 10, and nice to see Stufts get a top 16 as well. And looking forward to watching you guys in the next few races. Whizzy, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, and well, speaking of new formats, how did you enjoy that, Boney?
Yeah, it's obviously with the TMFL obviously having already that endurance and whatnot. Obviously, people coming into it, it does definitely have that same vibe. But I think the big difference, right? We no longer have the tire wear instead of having the energy pitting out of it, but we have attack mode, right? There's these changes, but it still invokes that, as Wizzy mentioned, right? That type of strategy, having to think about where do we go with this energy, where do I use this attack mode, and especially being the first race, yeah, it's gonna be hard to deal with it. So seeing all the players learn it on the fly is very enjoyable for me as a spectator to get into it, and I wouldn't be surprised if not just tomorrow's race but also the race for the fourth is going to look a lot different from what we've seen today, right? Not those as mentioned, the energy simply draining and oh no, I cannot really drive for the next couple of laps and there goes my lead. And instead, yeah, far less. As well, the rain is very much something I'm looking forward to see how that will pay out, especially on a track like this where you have to build up so much speed and all of a sudden you have to slow down. I mean, with rain, you got to be very calculated to know when exactly you can slow down and how much you can get away with, because I think that is the big thing with rain, right? How much risk can you take? How much can you push that turn really without sliding out?
Yeah, absolutely. Having played it myself, I think it's going to have such a big impact. I think the people who will be watching at home will be wondering what the hell is happening, but you can't understand it until you experience it, and I'm looking forward to seeing a race in the wet as well. But yeah, definitely enjoyed today's race, and looking forward to seeing a little bit more. Looking forward to seeing what our wild drivers can do as well. Already happy with that first time around. But before we go, we do have one last thing that we want to talk about. If I can get producer Deployer to get it up on screen. We have a special Cup of the Day podcast episode. Yes, it's coming back. It's coming back next Wednesday at 7 p.m. GMT, 8 p.m. CEST, and it's going to be with Tona. Tona, obviously Nadeo employee, and he's going to be here to answer all of your questions with regards to the new TM World Tour format that has been announced, that actually kicked off today with Gamers Assembly down in Poitiers in France. So you have any questions about the format, you might not understand something, or you want to just, discuss it, you want to hear us discuss it. Myself, Thomas from Keeping Track, we're going to be putting those questions to Tona. We're going to have a nice little chat about it. So make sure you don't miss that. Submit your questions on Twitter at the British and Irish Trackmania Twitter. Yeah, look forward to seeing you all there.
I know what I'm listening to while waiting for my flight as my holiday actually starts. I mean, I'm already on holiday, but that's when I'm heading off to Valencia. So I already know what I'm listening to while on the airport before heading off, because I am very curious to hear what the plan is for World Tour this year. I mean, it's been a while, right? We've been waiting for it quite a bit, but we know it's coming back. We know it's happening, and I mean, I'm coming up with some questions. I'll see what I can come up with.
Your questions. Get those questions in, or else they cannot be asked. But for the time being, Boney, thank you very much for joining me this evening. It's been a pleasure, as always, and hopefully we'll see you again on this channel.
Definitely, it's been great joining you. Thank you for having me as well. I mean, Babs, this has been... I enjoyed this race a lot. I'm looking forward to seeing what tomorrow brings as well. Yeah, I mean, if this is what Formula E X Trackmania is going to be, I'm ready for more.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's plenty more to come. There'll be plenty more to come in this channel. Not only the Cup of the Day episode, more casts, more action, and more live streams. So make sure you look out for that. Look at across all the socials, and make sure you follow Boney as well. He streams from time to time, and he's a great guy. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you all very soon.
Bye-bye.